Welcome to Fundraising is Funny. I'm Lynn Wester.
And I'm Clay Buck.
Join us to share in laughter and stories as we take a lighthearted look at the profession that we love so much, fundraising.
Because sometimes we just have to laugh at ourselves.
Laughter through tears is my favorite emotion. Take a moment, take a listen. Hey, this could even be called self-care.
Bring your favorite beverage and a yummy snack.
In reality, we're here to deliver on our promise. We're going to make you laugh or cringe. And if you learn something too, bonus.
See, we're serious fundraisers. We believe in this work, but we also know we do some really ridiculous things all in the name of raising a dollar. Maybe if we laugh at and with them and at ourselves, we can bring a little joy to everybody in our sector.
Now, don't worry. In that pursuit of joy, we won't name names, but the stories we share are 100% real life in the world of nonprofit fundraising.
Because, come on, fundraising is funny. Lynn.
That's my name, Clay.
That's my name. Don't wear it out.
Ooh, I'm rubbing your glue.
At least it's clear what your name is. Like when I say Lynn, I know exactly who that is.
Are there multiple Clays in my life?
Are there? I don't know.
No, you're the only one.
There are very few. It's very rare for me to walk into a room and there be another Clay.
There's especially only one T Clay.
There's only one T Clay. The T is silent though.
Oh, Clay.
Wow.
It's like I'm speaking a foreign language.
Well, it is. But when you say
I do speak multiple foreign. I'm a polyglot.
Excuse you.
Yeah, I'm a polyglot. Some of you will look that up.
You are. It's true. But when you say Clay, you know exactly what you get. I hope. I hope.
A round lump of unmolded earthenware that should be no. Oh, no, other Clay.
See how
it's like gray or gray.
Oh, I heard you pronounce that E versus the A.
Oh, did you hear that?
I heard that.
You know why? Hooked on phonics and language means something to me.
Well, language means something to me, but language can be confusing. Especially.
Give me an example. I don't believe you. Tell me a story where language.
Our world.
Oh, you mean like the time that I met a British guy at Disney when I was working there, and I was from South Carolina. I asked him if he liked to shag.
Oh.
It was the same. It was using English.
Moving right along.
Okay, you tell me your story.
We'll let our friends figure that one out if they don't
Across
know.
the pond. Ew.
Right. Yeah. So great.
Ew.
Great. We just lost the UK listeners. Thank you.
It's okay. We're ranked number 11 there.
I'm okay with languages, but accents, no.
No. Sorry.
So anyway, once upon a time.
In a faraway land.
Once upon a time, I was working with this organization and we were going deep into data and trying to figure out what our best segmentation was for our
segmentation, not representation. No.
Wowzers.
Brain. Sorry.
So we had multiple conversations, and one of our key segments was LYBUNTS.
Excuse you?
LYBUNTS. You know what
English, please.
You know what a LYBUNT is.
Oh, yes.
But just to be clear, LYBUNT last year, but unfortunately not this. It's one of these standard.
Which would be a LYBUNTy.
LYBUNTy. Yeah, I learned LYBUNT. Other people say LYBUNTy.
Have you ever used LYRBUNT?
I have not used a LYRBUNT.
Oh, I'll teach you about that later in the podcast today.
I look forward to that. LYBUNT, SYBUNT. Right. Anyway, so it's one of those standard fundraising terms that have been around a minute. A lot of people have heard, maybe. And then maybe it's, okay, so you haven't heard LYBUNT, but you say last year, but unfortunately not this. And there's kind of a general understanding. So you mean last year's donors? Oh, but do you?
Define a year.
Define last year. Last calendar year? Last 50. Dude, turns out.
I worked at a Jewish organization, which I loved.
Yes.
I had 4 years to deal with. I had fiscal year. I had Gregorian calendar year. I had Jewish calendar year. And I had academic year.
Yeah. Yeah. So last year, well, it turns out about halfway through this massive data project, half of us saw LYBUNT one way and the other half saw LYBUNT another way.
Sorry, I was making a bad joke at your expense. I said that you fell asleep during the middle of the data project, as most of us would have.
Reference other episodes that we have done, right? I have the idea. I knew exactly what I meant. Maybe the culture wasn't strong enough that we were on the same communications page, but it took us a while. And it wasn't until we sat down and said, hey, a LYBUNT is these dates. This specific date range equals LYBUNT that we were all on the same page.
First date, second date, or that date?
Right, because like last year, but unfortunately not this, to some would imply, well, literally last year.
As in right now we're in 2023.
Right.
And so that would be 2022.
Right. Well, right. So then that would mean that, well, in one way of looking at it, that definition of a LYBUNT is actually a current donor, because a current donor is a donor who is currently giving. They just haven't renewed yet.
Do donors know? Like, and do they care?
I am convinced that donors walk around. I'm a lapsed donor.
You know what?
Look at me. I'm a LYBUNT.
One time I was on Tinder and I was reading a guy's profile.
Notice how quiet I got.
And he said he was a SYBUNT, and I swiped left on that because nobody needs that kind of inconsistent energy around them. I mean, honey, I am only dating loyal donors. I am not dating a SYBUNT.
Wow.
Not doing it. You need to be loyal.
With the snaps and everything. But it goes to like how insufficient our vocabulary often is if we're not on the same page. For example, what's a donor?
Somebody who gives us the things.
The things.
Well, time, talent, and treasure.
Time, talent, treasure. So a donor is somebody who gives money. How about this? How about this? Let's say that their last gift to you was 10 years ago. Are they still?
Was that before or after I quit my last job?
Right. Are they still a donor? Or are they at that point a non-donor?
Oh, so this comes into my world because I often ask people for a list of first-time donors. And they literally look at me straight in the face and go, so when do you want their last gift to have been?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, no, dear. Oh, dear. I sound like Mrs. Doubtfire. Oh, dear.
Or my mother-in-law.
Yes. Bless her. I mean someone who's never, ever, ever, ever.
Thank you, Taylor.
Forevers given to you before.
Right.
That's what I mean by a first-time donor. Now, there are people that think I mean anybody who hasn't given to you in the last 5 years.
Right.
No, that's what I would say. I would say I would like a list.
Because sometimes we go into the database and just wipe them if they haven't given. Remember that one?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Well, but definitions, right? So what's donor? What's here? I know you love this. You know I love this. I'm sure that people are out there walking around going, I'm a low-end donor.
Ooh, there's nothing like a low-end or low-level donor.
Mid-range.
Yeah, I mean.
Mid-range. I don't know if you heard, and this is for another discussion for another time, but the donor pyramid is dead. So,
I did not hear it. I didn't know it was alive in the first place.
So the donor pyramid is dead, so low and mid-range mean even less than
I didn't know that inanimate objects actually.
Well, yeah.
Is that an onomatopoeia? What is that when inanimate objects take on life?
Personification.
Personification. I did not know that we had personified the donor pyramid.
But low and mid-range. Well, but I work for an organization where the major gift threshold was $1,000.
Oh, I could be a major gift donor one day.
Well, a major gift is $1,000. So what's a low donor?
And I work at someone who's very short.
I mean, if some organizations that you work at $1,000 doesn't even hit the low range.
No, dear. No, dear.
My point is.
No, dear. I think that's the point. No, dear. It's just, oh, dear.
How insufficient is our vocabulary?
Well, I find that there is an essential role at every nonprofit where they have at least one staff member who plays a very important role, but it's not in a job description. It's not written down anywhere. And it's the role that I had dreamed of when I went to college as a genetic engineering major and then changed my majors to foreign languages.
We're not a genetic.
Yeah, I wanted to find the cure for cancer.
Were you really?
Yeah, I was a scientist. I won the Bausch and Lomb Science Award for the country, and I met Carl Sagan. I am a nerd.
What?
I am a nerd.
How did I not know this?
Hello. I got one wrong on the SAT. I am a nerd of all variety. And I changed my major to foreign languages. I wanted to be an interpreter for the United Nations. Because the reason I changed my major, I didn't want to be in a lab. I wanted to be around people because I wanted to harm them for, a living and not just harm fireflies by pulling their wings. Anyway.
Stop.
Yeah. So I wanted to be an interpreter at the UN. That's what I was going to do with my polygotness. And so what we need is a bomb I'm going to drop on you a little bit after we have a snack, because I feel like you need some sustenance to make it through this conversation about language.
Oh, dear.
So you're going to put on your Language Lab headphones, everybody. You're going to turn to your book, your workbook on page 26.
Old school Gen X language learning. Wow.
Yeah, you're going to turn to that workbook on page 26.
Wow.
Or you're going to open up that app called Duolingo. And then we're going to come back as soon as we get some sustenance.
Some sustenance. I feel like we need, I don't know.
Like protein.
I feel like we need some sort of like exotic sort of
crickets.
Foreign language snack. No, I'm not eating crickets.
Crickets are delicious. I'm not eating crickets. Put them on the tacos, mix them in with your guac.
Nope.
High protein, low carb.
Just bugs me.
And on that note, I'm out. Okay, it looks like somebody's turned the lights on and all the bugs have left. So I have Clay's bad puns. I think
I'm telling you, at the end of the world, it's going to be like cockroaches and that one filing cabinet that has all of the old pledge agreements
and
in
Barb
it
and accounts payable.
I love Barb.
Well, she doesn't pay many accounts, but sure. Oh, Clay, we digress so much. We were talking about words, LYBUNTS, first-time donors. Oh, I've got another one, loyal donors.
Define loyal.
Well, I'm loyal.
Well, define donor first.
Well, no, I can't do that. That seems difficult.
Current donor,
I can
lapsed
say it
donor?
in multiple languages, though. Donor. I once had a VP that I met at a very prestigious, not prestigious, but prestigious university. And she would say, Lynn, how are you supposed to help us keep our donors? And I was like, ooh, it makes me think of a doner kebab. And that was all I could think about. So I didn't really do well with that client. But all I'm saying is what we need and the role that we're missing.
Yes.
And the role that usually exists but is unsung is a translator. Now it's interesting.
A
translator or a translator. Either way, you will find that there's a difference between translation and interpretation.
Oh,
that's right, folks.
Whoa.
I just dropped some foreign language knowledge on you.
Wow.
Language arts.
Stop. There's a difference between translation and interpretation.
What's the difference, Clay?
Explain, please.
Translation is that when Clay says, I would like a small, short bear of unknown origin, I translate, I would like a small, short bear of unknown origin.
Okay.
Interpretation means I take Clay's request and say, I'm looking for a teensy bear, like probably a teddy bear for a child. I'm interpreting it based on the context of other things that are happening around him, right? Sure. So if we're in a toy store and he says, I want a small, short bear of unknown origin, I'm not looking for a beast that's looking for berries. I'm looking for a teddy bear.
Right.
Translated, though.
I don't know where this all came from with the bears and the things, but okay.
You have a bear on your shelf, and it's
because I support bear rescue and habitats. I do.
I like bears. They're cool. And just like in certain languages, so in Spanish, there's, 11 different versions of love, or there's also my favorite in Spanish, my favorite comparison language wise is ser and estar.
Ooh.
So they're both versions of the to be.
Mm-hmm.
So ser and estar. One means I am something not for long term, and one something means I'm something for permanently.
Okay.
So if, for example, you said, soy Argentinian, right? Like I am Argentinian. That's not going to change. You're Argentinian.
Okay.
You don't say I'm Argentinian estar or estoy Argentinian because you're not Argentinian today and then not Argentinian tomorrow. So permanence plays into your interpretation of ser and estar in Spanish.
One of my favorite translations versus interpretations is French.
Oh.
If you say
sacre bleu,
when you say I miss you, the phrase is tu me manques, right? Which we translate as I miss you. But what it literally means is you are missing from me.
You're not.
Oh. It's just a lovely way which is it's a lovely way of saying it, right? But the difference between what it literally means, you are missing from me, versus how we interpret it, which is I miss you. Point in fundraising, how we talk about these things actually matters a great deal because it could have serious ramifications on what we do.
Well, it has ramifications on the data you pull.
Because if that database administrator had been pulling a LYBUNT based on a strict definition of last year using calendar year, and had pulled the data for that. And we had put it into the solicitation with a very, we miss you, right? A very lapsed sort of focused, we want to renew messaging, right? Especially if this was a membership.
Renew your membership now.
Right. It was membership. So that had ramifications on their lapsed membership. You've lost your benefits, all of that. If they had pulled that strict definition based on how they understood it, they would have put the wrong data.
Well, how about
and would
this?
have had serious ramifications on the revenue.
What if they have a misunderstanding of what a year is? Because
precisely.
Our finance office, what year do they care about?
Finance cares about fiscal year.
What year does a fundraiser care about?
Whatever finance tells us. No, it depends on the context.
Depends. What year does a donor care about?
Calendar.
Whatever their calendar may be.
Right.
And we assume it's Gregorian. We assume, is it Gregorian? Is that the right term? I think it is.
Right.
But we're making assumptions here, and that's where interpretation versus translation comes into play. But we have people on our team, and I think we need to hold up those who are the interpreters, the translators, and build that into skill sets. So Clay, I think it's very interesting. Most of our data friends have us fill out a form when they have a data request.
Right.
And then the frontline or the person making their data request says, well, why are you asking me questions? I put there what I wanted. I want last year's donor LYBUNTS. Do you know what I mean? So that I can renew it. And the data person is saying, well, what do you mean by last year? And what are you my favorite, what are you going to use this list for?
Oh, you've been talking to colleagues in prospect development, haven't you?
I ask, what are you going to use this list for? Because it depends on what fields you're going to need and in what context you're going to need them.
Listen, I just kicked open that door, so let's walk through it.
Oh,
it's one of the biggest conflicts that I see. Is the conflict between, and I mean it in love, the conflict between major gift officers and prospect researchers.
Or anyone who's in the data set versus someone who's using the data.
Right.
Someone who's living and working in the data versus somebody who's using the end product of the data. There's always a conflict there.
And there's this concept of, well, the data can be whatever we need it to be, and I need the data to do this. Well, the data isn't constructed to do this. And also, you didn't ask for that.
Well, but so then how are we not in mass hiring translators or interpreters? Why are we expecting that to be on one person or another's plate?
I can barely afford to hire a database admin, let alone a translator, let alone a major gift officer. And you want me to hire a prospect researcher?
Would it not be prudent then to sit down with all parties? I feel like the punchline is coming here. So to me, the punchline then is standard definitions.
Bingo.
We need to understand what we mean by that. And so I'll give you an example in my recent work. So I have most of my favorite clients right now are my Canadian clients. Sorry. Yeah. I love them. They're fantastic. But at a Canadian university, they have different terminology for things than we do in the US at universities.
They also have different laws.
Well, laws, schmoz, it's
data privacy is just
loosely held
really.
Beliefs, really, is what laws are. They're things to be tested in okay.
Not funny.
I respect the Canadian Revenue Authority.
Suddenly we have linked into not funny.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
For example, a bursary is a need-based scholarship for them.
Right.
We call everything scholarships. They have scholarships, awards, and bursaries.
Right.
Or a faculty. A faculty is a school or a college. We call it a school or college. They call it a faculty. So one day when I was early on, she's like, oh, that wouldn't go over well with the faculty. I'm like, they have say in this? Like, I thought the faculty were like voting on fundraising. She's like, I meant the dean of the faculty. I'm like, so I had to translate and interpret, right? Yeah. What we need to figure out, I will tell you one that we went through that was bumpy. What's the difference between a restriction and a preference?
No. We could spend hours on this.
We won't.
No.
Here's the punchline. We need to invest in common definitions. We need to invest in making kind communications and clear communications. Yep. And we also need to take a deep breath when someone questions us on our definition. So Clay, if you're coming to me and you're saying, I want LYBUNTS, and I'm like, well, Clay, what does a LYBUNT mean to you? Please don't get defensive.
Here we go.
Please don't have your peacock feathers go and make that noise that peacocks make.
Peacocks.
Wow. It happens. I'm a metaphor girl. Metafora in Spanish.
What's a metaphor?
It's when you compare two things, not using
what's a metaphor? It's to keep cows in, silly.
sometimes silence is golden. Like my father says sometimes, better keep your mouth shut than open it and prove them right, honey.
Oh.
I love you, Daddy. All this to say, we need to value the definitions. We need to have them clear with each other.
I agree.
And we need to be kind and have lots of grace.
Completely.
You agree completely?
I agree completely. And just add it one step. I think standard definitions, much like a style manual or any other organizational manual, need to transcend people.
Transcend.
Seriously. So that because we see such high turnover and because we see such changes, there does need to be discussions at some level that say, look, this organization, for our purposes, we define LYBUNT or SYBUNT or donor or lapse donor or whatever the terminology may be, because there are so many, right? We define it this way. This is how we define it. And so that when the next person comes in, they get here. Look, here's the definition list.
Here's what we mean.
Part of your onboarding, here is the list. So we define these and we make sure that they're part of the culture, that everybody learns them and knows them. So we're keeping on, because it's going to save us all a world of hurt.
I'll tell you what I have definition on. That fundraising is funny. And if you want to join us in laughing and tell us what definition you can't get right at your organization. What's the word that sets fire to the rain, like Adele says? Let us know at fundraisingisfunny.com. I dropped an Adele in there. I did. And let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And I'm going to leave you all with this one last thing, because we're out of time and Clay can't respond. Hey, Clay, what's a pledge?
On that note.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good one. Send us your funny definitions or the words that you don't have a definition for. We'll see you soon.
Bye.